Shamsaradava Nalalidaloka Tranaya Karuna Ganaganatam Shamsaradava Nalalidaloka Tranaya Karuna Ganaganatam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Praptasya Kalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Mahaprabhu ki Tana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Senam Romanchakam pasru taranga bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringara Tanama Nirmajanado Shri Vigrahara Juktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Svattvana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Kridvaiva Trupti Bhajato Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shri Kama Davayor Para Madhurya Leela Gunarupa Namna Shirarika Para Madhurya Leela Pratikshana Swa Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Ne kunja yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Yayali Vir Jukti Apekshaniya Ne kunja yuno Ratikeli Siddhai Yayali Vir Jukti Tatrati Daksha Ati Balavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinda. Sakshadharitvena Shamasta Shashe Ruktastatthava Vyataiva Sadhavin. Kinto Prabhaja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam. Yasya prasadat Bhagavat prasadam. Yasya prasadam Nagati Kotapi. Yasya prasadam Nagati Kotapi. Dayam stuvam tasya Yasa Trisandhyam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam. Vande Guru Shri Charanaravrindam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunavadi Patatare Shatarine. Namaste Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Yaraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govindaram Shrimadusudam गिरिधारी गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत सीता हरे गुरु वैष्णव भगवत गीता श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुना श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुना हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण श्री श्री राधा नील माधव राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्राम जय सुदर्शन चक्र जय सीताराम जय सीताराम जय सीताराम जय सीताराम जय सीताराम जय लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय प्रहलाद महाराज निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर प्रेमानंदी जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रभाजकाचार्य सूत्र सर शिष्य महाराज डिवाइन ग्रेस अभवचन भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि संस्था कचर वैष्णव श्रमणि पतित पावन शील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय श्री गुरु वर्गापति उद्धार की जय श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सतगुरु स्वामी प्रभु की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिनंदन श्रीमन गौरंग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावृणावतार की जय। गौलोकीर प्रमधान हरि नाम संकीर्तन जय की जय। जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। बृहत निदांग ट्रांसडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप कुपना राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रज वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय। दिलों श्री राधा नीला माधव की जय। श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुणा श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम कित्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु स्मस्पुत्र देव सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कर श्रृंगरे भगवान की जय। जय गंगा माय जमुना माय की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। श्रीमती राधारानी की जय। सीता राम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय। निताय गौर हरि प्रमानंदे हरि बोल। All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glory to the assembly bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Praladhaladadayine. Hiranyakashipurvakshaha.
Hiranyakashipurvakshaha.
Shilatankanakalaye.
Shilatankanakalaye.
Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha.
Ito Nisingha Parato Nisingha.
Yato yato yami tato Narsimha.
Jaya Jata Jata Jami Tato Nisingha.
Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha.
Bahir Nisingha Hridaye Nisingha.
Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadye.
Narasingha Madim Sharanam Prapadye.
Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shringam Dalita Hiranyakashipo Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare.
Bhavakara Kamalabhare Nakam Adbhuta Shringa. Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanabhinga. Kesavadita Narari Rupa. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare. Jai Jagadish Hare.
केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे
केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश
जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव
जय नृसिंहदेव जय नृसिंहदेव जय नृसिंहदेव जय नृसिंहदेव
जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद महाराज
जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय भक्त प्रहलाद भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद
नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल
नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल ये शिशु भक्ति परस्वर नाशना कर श्रृंगारी भगवान की जय ये भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय हरि हरि श्री वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्यारे देवी सकवताय वृंदाई तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्यारे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की
कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः
राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो ए अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो ए Radha Krishna Seva Prabha Eya Vilasi
જે તો મારા શરણ લો તારા વંચા પૂરા ના હોય
Jeta Mara Sharanala Taravancha Purna
કૃપા કોરી કોરો તારે વૃંદાવન વાસી
Tumi Kripa Kare Karatare Vrindavanavasi
મોરાએ અભિલાષ વિલાસ કુંજ દિયો વાસ
Moraya Vilas Vilas Kunje Diyava
નયને હરિવો સદા જુગલ રૂપરાસી
Aminayane Rivasada Jugala Ruparasi
એ નિવેદાના ધારો સાખીરાનું ગાતા કોરો
Eni Vedana Dhara Shakhirayano Gatakara
સેવા અધિકારા દિએ કોરો નિજ દાસી
Sevayade Karadiye Karane Jadasi
દીના કૃષ્ણ દાસે કોએ જીના મોરા હોએ
Dina Krishna Das Kar Enamara
શ્રી રાધા ગોવિંદા પ્રેમે સદા જીના ભાસી
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sarayana Vasi
શ્રી રાધા ગોવિંદા પ્રેમે સદા જીના ભાસી
Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadayana Vasi
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
Yani Kani Sapapani Brahmatari Kanisa Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradachina Pade Pade
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
Tani Tani Sapapani Brahmatari Kanisa Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradachina Pade Pade
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
Kani Sapapani Brahmatari Kanisa Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradachina Pade Pade
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्णा Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol. श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की जय.
Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satavataye Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Oh Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of his wishes fulfilled, bestow myself upon him, making resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me residence, the pleasure to all Shri Vrindavan. That's within my vision. I will always behold beautiful pastimes Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of them of God. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own servant. Very cool and knowing servant Krishna faith. May I always dream in love with Shri Radha, Govind, Shri Madhurasi Maharani, Vrindadevi, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Shri Akari Vachandrika Vitarana Vidya Vadhu Jivanam Ananda Buddhivardhanam Padam Purnam Saranam Sarvatmasnam Param Paravijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Namnam Akari Vabudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pitanyamita Svane Nakala Sadhusita Bhagyapada Bhagavanana Durdhaivam Vishamyada Nanuragana Vinadapi Sunichena Tarodapi Sahishnana Amanina Amanadina Kitanya Sadahari Nathanam Najananda Sundari Shatamai Amajanmani Janmanishwari Mata Bhaktir Haritaki Tvai Ainandatam Jakinkaram Paridamam Vishame Bhavam Vipaya Tavaparapam Kajasita Duli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Yakinchitam Bakukada Avanamagahane Bhavishati Yugayitam Yamishena Chakisha Pravishaitam Shinyaitam Jagatu Sarvam Govinda Vedahem Asvishva Bhagavatam Namaskuna Adashanatam Prabhukarosuva Yadada Bhagavadidadasuna Matrana Tastu Saivana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vichitra Mahaprabhu Shri Prasad Ki Jai Om Namo Vishnu Glory to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who's going to provide all the dust of the creation, and his name is to provide the things in life of his birth and death. The Sankirtan and the Islam and the Muslims of life, who is great grace and rich known. It is the light of all transcendental life. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables the free test connect the always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can rain the whole benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is no even hard and fast rule for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name with the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord and strong and street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all senses of prestige, and should be ready to offer our respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. Only one your cause of devotion and service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, some or other I am falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please bring me out from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, O will my eyes should be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. O will my voice choke up, O will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he surely remains so. Even the sun does not rise to praise and breast, or makes me broken hearted, but not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything. Is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Shikya Statham Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that must be avoided. They are as follows. 1, to blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2, consider the name of demigods, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. 3, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4, blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures in pursuance of Vedic version. 5, to consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to the imagination. 6, to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7, to commit simple activities in the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8,
Consider chanting Hare Krishna
one of the
auspicious ritualistic activities which are Vedas as fruit of activities or karma kanda.
9,
To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name.
and 10,
Do not have complete faith in chanting holy names and to maintain material attachment, even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense being intent of all chanting. Every devotee claims to be a Vaishnava. Guard against these 10 offenses. In order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Now, let us offer our most humble obeisance to Vaishnava devotees to the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa tirabhischa kripa sindhubhyevacha pattam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamri. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Puchari Nirvisesa Sunyamari Paskat Yad Satari Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadya Shayato Naviyad Itaratash Chatesu Avigyaswarat Tene Brahma Hirdaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsurayaha Tejo Varimedam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Misha Damna Svena Sadari Rasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dimahi O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes, of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahma, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion. As one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water, only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma Pujita Kaitra Votra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shivadam Tapa Trayam Mulana Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamani Krite Kim Vapurir Ishvara Sadyo Hridya Avurujite Kriti Bihi Sususavistakshana. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpataru galitam phalam sukumukad amrita dravya samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhur aho raskabu vibhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire to Vedic literature. It emanated from the lips of C. Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantak Stohi Bhadrani Vidunoti Srihitsatam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. Nasta presu abhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati tamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistake. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. as he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
as he hears more about Krishna
and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
he becomes fixed in devotional service to the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Tadarajastamo bhava,
kamalobhadayaschaye
kamalobhadaya,
chete etaranabhidam
chidaitaranabhidam,
stitvam sattve prasidati.
tam sati
By
prasad,
development of devotional service,
by development of devotional service,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and
one becomes
ignorance,
free from the mode of passion,
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
and its material lust and avarice are diminished.
Evam prasana manaso
Evam prasanamana
bhagavat bhakti yogataha
Bhagavat Bhakti Yoga,
bhagavat tattva vijnanam
Bhagavat Tattva Vijnana,
mukta sankasya jayate.
Mukta Sangha,
When these impurities are wiped away,
when these impurities are
the
wiped away,
candidate remains steady in his position of pure
the
goodness,
candidate remains steady in position of
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
become enlivened by devotional
and
service,
understands the science of God perfectly.
and understand the sense of God.
Vidyate hridaya grantis,
Vidyate Hridaya
siddhyante sarva samsaya,
Siddhyante Sarva Samsaya,
siyante chashikarmani,
Siddhyante Cha Sakarmani,
drista evat manishware.
Drista Evadmani Ishwari.
Thus, bhakti yoga severs the hard knot of material affection
Thus the Bhakti Yoga serves the harness of material
and enables
affection,
one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram,
and enables us to come at once to the stage of assumption,
understanding of the supreme absolute truth personality of Godhead.
understanding the supreme absolute truth.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna
Only by hearing
consciousness
from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna
can one
consciousness
understand the science of
can one
Krishna.
understand the science of Krishna.
Shri Shri Guru Vastika prayers ki jai. The spiritual master is receiving benedictions from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it.
The spiritual master receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it.
So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence.
So the spiritual master delivers the material afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities.
I offer my respectful blessings unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities.
Chanting holy names, and chanting a holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments.
Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical
The
instruments.
spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu,
The spiritual master is also gladdened by the Sankirtan moment of the Lord Chaitanya
because he is
Mahaprabhu,
relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind.
because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his
Sometimes his hair stands on end.
mind. Sometimes his hair stands
He
on
feels
end.
quivering in his
He
body,
feels quivering in his
and
body,
tears flow from his eyes like waves.
and tears flow from his eyes.
I
like
offer my
waves.
respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance to the Lord of such a spiritual
The
master.
spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna.
The spiritual master also engaged in temple worship of Shri Radha and
He also
Krishna.
engages his disciples in such worship.
He also engages disciples in such
They
worship.
dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments,
They use the deities of beautiful clothes, and
clean their
ornaments,
temple,
clean their
and
temple,
perform other similar worship of the
and
Lord.
perform other similar worship.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lord's feet of
The
such a
spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food.
The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious
Analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and
food,
sucked.
and those are less which is liquid.
When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are eating Bhagavat Prasada,
When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasad,
he is satisfied.
he is
I
satisfied.
offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
I
master.
offer my respectful obeisance to the Lord's feet of such a spiritual master.
The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava
The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastime of Radhika and Madhava,
and their qualities, names, and
and
forms.
the qualities, names, and
The
forms.
spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment.
The spiritual master aspires to relish these
I
at
offer
every
my
moment.
respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance to the Lord's feet of such a spiritual
The
master.
spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavana.
The spiritual master is very eager because he is the expert in executing the arrangement and perfection of Radha and Krishna conjugal affairs within
I
the
offer my
grove.
most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a
I offer
spiritual
my
master.
respectful obeisance unto the Lord's feet of such a spiritual
The
master.
spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as Supreme Lord because the most confidential.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance at the lotus feet of such a spiritual master as a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna.
Therefore, I offer my humble obeisance unto the Lord for my spiritual master, who is the bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
By the grace of the spiritual master, one receive the benediction
Without
of
the
Krishna.
grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advance.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual
At
master.
least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance at the lotus feet of my
At least
spiritual
3
master.
times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord to my spiritual master.
Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sakchit Ananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karana
Chintamani Prakara Satma Sukalpa Vriksha
Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Vriksha
Laksha Vite Susurabir Abhipaliyantam
Lakshya Vitesh Surabhir Abhipalayantam
Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam
Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambrama Sevyamanam
Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Venam Kvananta Aravinda Dalayataksham
Venum Kvanantam Aravinda Dalayataksham
Varhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam
Param Vata Samasitam Buddha Sundaram
Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Visesa Sobham
Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha
Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Alola Chandra Kala Sadvana Madhyavansi
Alola Chandra Kala Sadvana Madhya Vamsi
Ratnam Gadam Pranay Keli Kalavilasam
Pranangadam Pranaya Keli Kala Vilasham
Shyamam Tribanga Lalitani Yata Prakasam
Shyamam Tribhangalalitam Yata Prakasham
Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti
Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti
Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti
Pasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti
Ananda Chinmaya Chadujvala Vigrahasya
Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya
Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam
Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta
Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha
Adyam Purana Purusham Navajovanam Cha
Vede Sudurlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto
Vedeshu Dullabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto
Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo
Pantastu Koti Satasvatsara Sapragam
Vayoratapi Manaso Muni Pungamanam
Vayoratapi Manaso Muni Pungavanam
Sopyasti Yat Prapadasimya Vichintya Tatve
Sopyasi Yata Prasada Vishcham Chittate
Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Ekopya Sora Chayatum Jagadanda Kotim
Ekopya Sura Chayitum Jagananta Koti
Yasyaktirasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta
Shaktirasti Jagananda Chayayadanta
Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam
Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarashtam
Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajastataiva
Yad Bhava Bhavito Dhiyo Manjastataiva
Sampraptya Rupa Mahina Sanayana Bhusaha
Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusha
Suktaryameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti
Shukteryam Eva Nigama Patitaistuvan
Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitavis
Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitavis
Tabirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabi
Tabirya Eva Nijarupataya
Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto
Goloka Eva Nivasatya Kilatma
Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena
Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena
Santak Sadeva Hridayesu Vilokayanti
Santa Sadeva Hrideshu Vilokayanti
Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam
Yam Syama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Ramadi Murti Sukalani Amena Tistan
Ramadi Murti Shukalani Yamena Tistan
Nanavatara Makarod Bhuvanesa Kintu
Nana Vatara Makarot Bhuvaneshu Kintu
Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Parama Pumam Yo
Krishna Swayam Sambhavat Paramam Pumanyo
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Vajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham
Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagaranda Koti
Yasha Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda
Koti Swasesa Vasadadi Vibhuti Binam
Kodya Svashesha Vasudhari Vibhuti
Tad Brahma Niskalamanantam Asesa Bhutam
Brahmanis Kalamanantam Shesha
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govinda Amadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Maya Hiyasya Jagadanda Satani Sute
Maya Ijasya Jagananda Satani Sute
Traigunya Tad Vishaya Veda Vitayamana
Tegonya Tad Vishaya Veda Vitaya
Sattvabalambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam
Sadvabalambi Parasatvam
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya Manasu
Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya
Ya
Manasu
Praninam Pratifulam Smaratam Upetya
Ya Praninam Pratipalam Smaratam Mukhe
Lilaya Tena Bhuvanani Jayaya Jasram
Lila Yitena Bhuvanani
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham
Golokanamni Nijadamni Tale Chatasya
Guru Kanamni Nijadami Tali Chatas
Devi Mahesu Haridama Sute Sutesu
Devi Mahisha Haridama
Tete
Suteshu Teshu
Tete Prabhava Nichaya Vihitascha Yena
Tete Prabhavani Chaya Vihitascha
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham
Shristi Stiti Palaya Sadhava Saktireka
Srishti Sthiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Re
Chaeva Yasya Bhavanani Vivarti Durga
Chaye Varyasya Bhuvanani Vibhakti Durga
Ichchana Rupam Apiyasya Chachesta Tesa
Icha Rupam Apiyasya Chaturtista
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga
Tiram Yatana Dikara Visesha
Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Hetoho
Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Etu
Yasambutam Apitata Samapaiti Karyat
Yasambhutam Tata Samupaiti Karya
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Niparchad Eva Disad Niparchad Eva Hita Santaram Abhyapetya Dipayate Vivita Hetu Samanu Dharma
Vipayate Vivita Hetu Samana Dharma
Yastadrik Eva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati
Yastadik Eva Isha Vishnu Taya
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga
Yakarnanam Valeji Bhajati
Nidram Ananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupaha
Nidram Ananta Jagananda Saruma
Adhara Saktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim
Adhara Shaktim Avalambya Param
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham
Yasyaika Nisvasitakalam Atavalambya
Yasheka Nisvasita Kalam Atkalam
Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadanda Nataha
Jivanti Loma Vilapa Jagadanda Nata
Vishnu Mahansa Hiha Yasya Kala Vishesho
Vishnur Mahamsa Yasya Kalavisya
Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Yasmad Basvanya Tasma Sakalesuna Jesu Tejaha
Vasvanya Tastam Sakaleshu Jesu Teja
Sviyam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitad Vadatra Brahmaya Esa Jagadanda Vidana Karta Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yatpada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Vande Pranamasamaya Dvandve pranama samayesa ganadi rajaha
Dvendve pranama samaye saganadiraja.
Vignam vihanta malamasya jagatrayasya
Vigam vihantu malamasya jagatrayasya.
Govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami
Govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami.
Agnir mahi gaganamambu marudisascha
Agnir mahi gagana ambu maruti sascha.
Kalas tatatma manasitti jagatrayani
Kalastaratma manasiti jagatrayani.
Yasmad bhavanti vibhavanti vishanti yamcha
Yasmat bhavanti vibhavanti vishanti.
Govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami
Govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami.
Yachchaksur esha savita sakala grahanam
Yachakyuresha savita sakalagra.
Raja samasta suramurti rasesha tejaha Yasya gaya brahmati sambrita kala chakro Govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami
Govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami.
Dharmo tapapa nichaya sutayastapamsi
Dharmo tapapa nichaya sutayasta tamsi.
Rama dikita patagava dayascha jivaha
Brahmadikita padagavadayakcha jivaha.
Yadata matra vibhava prakata prabhava
Yadatamata bhava prakata.
Govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami
Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami.
Yes Dvindra gopam atavendra maho swakarma
Yashindra gopam atavindra aho swakarma.
Bandhanu rupa falabhajana matanoti
Bandhanu rupa phalabhajana.
Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajan
Mani nirtati kintu bhakti bhava.
Govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami
Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami.
Yam krodha kama sahaja pranayadi bitti
Yam krura kama sahaja pranayati.
Vatsalya moha guru gora vasevya mavahai
Sadya moha guru gaurava sevya bhavai.
Sanchintya tasya sadrisim tanamapurete
Satyinta tasya sadhishitam napurete.
Govindam adi purisham tamaham bhajami
Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami.
Shriya kanta kanta parama purusha kalpataravu Druma bhumis chintamani ganamayi toyam amritam Kata ganam natyam gamanam apivamsi priyasaki Chid anandam jyoti param apitad asvadyam apicha
Chiranandam Juti Paramam Apita Avasvadyam Apicha.
Sayatra shiradi bihi shabati shirabi vyascha sumahan
Sayatra Kirati Sravanti Surabhivyas Chasumahan.
Nime sardakyo va vrajati nahiyatra pisamaya
Nime Sardakyo Vavrajiti Nahi Yatrapi Samaya.
Bhaje sveta dvipam tamaham iha golokam itiyam
Bhaje Sveta Dvipam Tamaham Aya Gulukamiti.
Vidantas te santak shiti virala chara katipaye
Vedantasti Shanta Kriti Virala Charak.
Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 2, text number 30. Tatascha manava kale ijire rishayo pare pitaro vibhuda daitya manusya kratubir vibhum. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Thereafter, the Manus, the fathers of mankind, the great sages, the forefathers, the learned scholars, the Daityas, and mankind performed sacrifices meant to please the Supreme Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Daityas are devotees of the demigods because they want to derive the greatest possible material facilities from them. The devotees of the Lord are ekanishta, or absolutely attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, they have practically no time to seek the benefits of material facilities. Because of their realization of their spiritual identity They are more concerned with spiritual emancipation than with material comforts. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Excuse me. Thereafter the Manus, the fathers of mankind, the great sages, the forefathers, the learned scholars, the Daityas, and mankind perform sacrifices meant to please the Supreme Lord. So, Prabhupada here is making a stark differentiation between materially afflicted, let's say, materially afflicted, conditional devotees, and genuine devotees. Conditional devotees means they have conditions for engaging in devotional service. And unalloyed devotees make no conditions for serving the Lord. They're not asking for anything in return. They're simply asking for the service, and that's to please the Lord only. So there's a big difference between the two. The word devotee is already a very exalted, let's say, designation. For someone to become a genuine devotee of the Lord is a rare thing. Manusyanam sahasresu kaschit jati siddhaye jatam api siddhanam kaschit mam veti tatvataha. So this is explained in Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter, 3rd verse, where it says that very few people actually become pure devotees. And we can see that. There are just a handful of devotees in the world compared to the total population. And why is this? Because most people, if they do some work, they want remuneration for it. And if they do some work and they don't ask for remuneration, at least they ask for recognition. So either remuneration or recognition, those are two things that they want to derive from doing the service. Like, for example, a husband should dutifully serve his wife and children. That means whether the wife and children treat him nicely or badly, he does his duty. And doesn't care about the treatment he receives in return. Of course, it's always more encouraging if the treatment is if the service is appreciated. But even if it's not appreciated, still he feels obliged to do it out of a sense of duty. So this sense of duty is one thing, but actually love of God is something else. There is also the sense of duty in devotional service, but at a certain point, it goes from regulated, following the rules and regulations, to spontaneous love and rendering of service. So that's something different. Like, let's say you respect someone very much. So when it comes, knocks on the door of the house, you open the door and you see this person that you respect very much. Well, immediately you invite him in, either him or her. You offer a nice seat, and you speak nicely and greet them, and you offer them some food, and you want to serve them in many different ways to show your respect and your appreciation and maybe even love for that person. So that's different than dutifully doing things. That spontaneous devotion and affection is completely different than dutifully doing it. One feels obliged, I must do this. Well, that's good also, but the love and devotion is even more savory for Krishna, because he knows this person is completely sold out to me. They have no other desire than to please me. So that, by that, Krishna feels naturally obliged to reciprocate with such a devotee. So the Daityas are devotees of the demigods, but they want to derive the greatest possible material facilities from them. Well, that's pretty interesting. And but on the other hand, Prabhupada says the devotees of ekanishta, that is, they're absolutely attached to the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, they have practically no time to seek the benefits of material facilities. Because of their realization of their spiritual identity. What is our spiritual identity? We're all part and parcel of Krishna. That's who we really are. We're not part and parcel of the material world, or this family, or that race, or that ethnic group, or that nationality. We're part and parcel of Krishna. We cannot change that. And we have an eternal soul. We cannot change that either. And we have a temporary body. We can't change that either. So we should accept our real identity. That's when, let's say, mother and father come to visit their kids in America and end up somewhere in Seattle because their children are working in Microsoft or Amazon or Facebook, whatever. And they are welcomed and given all kinds of respect and sometimes very warm affection and love because they're parents of their children. So that type of spontaneous attraction, affection, love, that's different than being officially welcomed by friends or relatives. There's a big difference. So that's what's being said here, because devotees are not interested in material benefits so much or material comforts. They're interested more in being liberated from the degrading effects of enviousness and hatred of the Lord. So this is explained in this verse in the Bhagavad Gita and in other places also, where it says, Ichadvesa samutena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani samoham sargayanti parantapa. Krishna says to Arjuna, O Skyana of Bharata, Arjuna, O conqueror of the foe. And he says, this word parantapa is another reference to Arjuna. He's the conqueror of enemies. So it says, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. So delusion means you engage in activities that are not really in your interest. Like, for example, people go into a 7-Eleven store and they want to buy beer and cigarettes. Now, are beer and cigarettes actually useful to a person? No. They're self-destructive. But yet they think they need it to be happy. So that's called delusion. They're accepting something that is self-destructive, thinking that it's actually good for them. Now another person might go in and buy a energy drink. I remember showing you a picture of a man who was drinking large quantities of energy drinks, and they had to take out part of his brain that had become, I guess it became cancerous. And they were able to do that without killing him. So you see this picture of him being embraced by his wife, and then half of his head is not there. Or 1/4 of his head was not there. They cut it out. Right? It's still alive, but is missing part of his brain. It's amazing, right? And that part of the brain was destroyed by the energy drinks that he was drinking every day, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bottles of it. So you can buy them, They're little bottles like this. You buy them for $7, $8, $9, $10. You drink it and you get this rush of energy. Actually, it's very, very bad to do it. And the proof is, if you overdo it, it's destructive. But people think they need it. So this is a state of delusion when you think you need something and you absolutely need it, but actually it's destructive. It's not really beneficial, but you think it is. So that's acting in a state of delusion. In other words, you believe something to be true that was never true, and on the basis of that, you act. And you engage in different actions, like going into 7-Eleven stores and buying beer and cigarettes and energy drinks. So they also have in these 7-Eleven stores and also gas station, like mini supermarket. They have lottery tickets. They have cigarettes. So that's gambling. They have cigarettes. They have also beer. You don't need a liquor license to sell beer, but you need a liquor license to sell hard liquors. So lottery tickets, cigarettes, beer, beef jerky. I know this one man. He claims to be a devotee, and he sells all these things in his gas station mini supermarket. So I was telling him yesterday, I said, you have to immediately stop this. He said, no, I'm not selling it. People are just buying it. So I told him, I said, that's nonsense. I said, that you're selling, well, of course you're selling it. How can you say you're a devotee and you're selling beef jerky, which is meat from bulls and cows, and you're selling lottery tickets, and you're selling cigarettes and beer and all kinds of junk things? How can you say you're a devotee? He said, no. I said, I don't use these things myself. I just sell them. I said, but there's this breaking the regulatory principle. By the way, he used to have also pornographic magazines. I don't know if he still does that, but I remember previously seeing them in the stores. So he's selling all these things, right? But yet he claims he's a devotee and that his goal in life is to live in Vrindavan. I said, well, Krishna won't accept you in Vrindavan. He said, no, I'm going to go to, I retire, I'm going to go to, I said, you'll die before you retire because you're a nonsense. I said, you should immediately stop this. He said, no, I'm not doing it. The people are buying it. I'm not doing it. So anyway, so this is a state of delusion, right? He's doing something that is extremely destructive, right? And self-destructive. And he thinks that it's necessary in order to make a living. It's not necessary. You can make your living in other ways. You don't have, or you could have a store like that and not sell those things, right? So in the there's an alternate translation of this verse in the Letters book, and it says, Prabhupada says, in the Bhagavad Gita, this is stated, Ichadvesa samutena sargayanta parantapa, which means deluded by desire to enjoy the material world and becoming envious of Krishna, one comes to this material world. So, this is what happened to us. This is why we fall down. We became deluded by the desire to enjoy the material world. So, for example, let's say a woman is walking down the street and a very handsome man is walking by her or toward her and then going past her. And she looks at him and he's very muscular and he's very handsome, has nice hair and nice clothes. She becomes attracted right away. Now, she doesn't even know who that person is. Or it can be the opposite. A man's walking down the street and sees a very attractive woman. And right away he's attracted. right? You don't even know who that person is. Sometimes, women are walking, and a man may be walking behind a woman, and she has, high heels and stockings and nice hair and everything. So you think, oh, this is a really pretty woman. So he walks a little faster to take a look at her. And looks at her. It's an old woman, actually. From the back, she looked like a young woman, But when he actually saw her from the front, this is actually an old woman. So you see, all these attractions are to the body are illusory, right? And there's a famous story Prabhupada tells of liquid beauty. So one day a man approached this very attractive woman, and he said, "I want to marry you." And she said, "Well, you don't even know who I am." He said, No, you're a very beautiful woman. I want to marry you." She said, "Okay, well, I don't want to marry you right now. You come back in 1 week." He said, "Why 1 week?" She said, "That's my condition." I said, "Okay." So during that week, she started taking a lot of purgatives and different types of things to she was throwing up and spitting and then passing stool and urine and put it all in this big pot. And after doing that for 1 week, she looked like she was very old, right? Because she became gaunt, and so her skin became a little darker, and her eyes were not clear, and because she kept throwing up and passing stool and throwing up and so many things. So then he comes after 1 week expecting to see this very beautiful woman again. And when he looks at her, she looks old and gaunt and tired. And he said, "Where's your beauty?" He said, "Last week you were so beautiful, and now you look like you're sick. What happened?" She said, "No, my beauty is over there." He said, "Where is that?" He said, "In that pot over there." So he runs over to the pot and opens it, and he sees it's full of stool and urine and puke and saliva and things like that. And Prabhupada tells this story, and it's called Liquid Beauty. So actually, that's a fact. That is actually a fact. This beauty is not even, is only skin deep. If you go half an inch under the skin, then you see blood, urine, stool, veins, ligaments, muscles, and all these things that are not actually beautiful. So beauty is only skin deep, and skin is like maybe not even a quarter of a skin, not a quarter of an inch. It's only hardly an eighth of an inch or a 16th of an inch. So this whole thing is illusory, and therefore we become attracted, deluded by the desire to enjoy the material world, and become envious of Krishna. Why is he enjoying? I'm going to enjoy independent of him. This is called enviousness. Just like someone can decide, today I don't want to read anything, and I'll just watch the news or watch the Super Bowl or go play tennis. I don't want to study anything anymore, Bhagavad Gita, and maybe I won't even finish my rounds. Well, that's because of enviousness. Due to enviousness, one stops their service. Due to attachment to sense gratification, they stop their service, or they become lax, meaning they don't pay attention to details. So that's not ekanista. Ekanista means one is very, very, let's say, dedicated to serving the Lord, and they can't go even 1 minute or 1 second without being engaged in some kind of service. So the Prabhupada explains in the purport to this verse, 7th chapter, 27th verse, he says, the real constitutional position of living entity is that of subordination to the Supreme Lord, who is pure knowledge. When one is deluded into separation from the pure knowledge, he becomes controlled by illusory energy and cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So as soon as we are deluded by the desire to enjoy the material world, we become separated from Krishna. And immediately we come under the control of Maya. And we forget our relationship with Krishna, and we think, I am this body, and the purpose of this body is to enjoy, and eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So then one becomes full of anxiety because they identify with the temporary body, which is temporary. It could die at any moment. And they become puffed up and arrogant and just only interested in sense gratification. The illusory energy is manifested in the duality of desire and hate. So this is going on all the time. You know, we desire so many things, and if there are any obstacles to attaining those things, we become angry, and we can even hate people. It happens all the time. Just like the politicians, one side, one type of politician hates another type of politician. Right? They're always talking against them, and it's mutual, going back and forth. So you have the Democrats and the Republicans, and you have the communists and the capitalists, and you have the followers of Modi and the followers of the Congress Party, and you know, it's all over the world. This divide, division, and hatred. Why? Because people are competing with each other for sense gratification at a certain point. Just like you see sometimes there's a baseball game, and then all of a sudden, or there's a hockey game, or there's a football game, or a basketball game. All of a sudden, instead of football, they start fighting with each other. Right? Why? Because they both want to win, they're in very severe competition, and sometimes when they get frustrated, they just want to break things and beat up people and just fight, you know. Or sometimes there's road rage. Two people that don't know each other, have never met each other, don't know anything about each other, but one person seems to have cut off another person on the highway, and the other person gets really angry and wants to get revenge, and he starts chasing the other car and screaming at the person and trying to make the person go off the road, and then finally they both stop and they both jump out of their cars and they start fighting, and one guy pulls out a gun and shoots the other guy. It's called road rage. It happens a lot. Two people that don't know anything about each other, never met each other, and just because of some kind of what they consider, demeaning action, like someone cuts them off or cuts in front of them or is going too slow. That's another one, you know. So then they get into a big fight and kill each other. So all these things are indicative of a mind that's overwhelmed with sense gratification. And this whole world, there is competition for sense gratification all the time, and sometimes when it becomes collective, it becomes a war. And countries go to war with each other. Prabhupada said all wars, or most wars, are wars of sense gratification. One group wants to impose their sense gratification on another group, or they want to eliminate another group so they can enjoy on that group's land. So therefore, it says here that the illusory energy is manifested in the duality of desire and hate. Due to desire and hate, the ignorant person wants to become one with the Supreme Lord and envies Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, that's referring to the Mayavadis. They want to eliminate Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and become Krishna themselves. Pure devotees who are not deluded or contaminated by desire and hate can understand that Lord Sri Krishna appears by his internal potencies, but those who are deluded by duality and nescience think that the Supreme Personality of God is created by material energies. This is their misfortune. Such deluded persons symptomatically dwell in dualities of dishonor and honor, misery and happiness, woman and man, good and bad, pleasure and pain, etc., thinking, this is my wife, this is my house, I am the master of this house, I am the husband of this wife. These are the dualities of delusion. Those who are so deluded by dualities are completely foolish and therefore cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Wow. It's pretty heavy purport by Prabhupada. But this is the truth. And all you have to do is just read the newspaper every day or look at the news, and you'll see many examples of what he just described. Right? This interminable, unending competition for sense gratification leading to, that means you have this desire, and then when that desire is frustrated, there's hatred and violence, oftentimes verbal or physical. Okay, so therefore, Prabhupada says in this letter to a disciple named Upendra in October 9th, 1971, and he says, as a father is always sorry for the son who is out of the home or far away, similarly, Krishna is not very happy on account of so many bewildered fallen souls in the material world. He therefore comes personally to ask them to surrender again to him. But the conditioned soul is so much illusion that it is very hard to make him surrender to Krishna. Therefore, each and every one of us, if we can give service to Krishna by making another man surrender to Krishna, then Krishna will very much appreciate that service, and that is for our gain, or that is for our benefit. Try to follow this principle and preach vigorously to your best capacity, and everything will be all right. Don't worry. So this is Prabhupada's message. Look, you want to please Krishna, go out there and preach and try and convince people to become devotees, even though they don't want to become devotees, right? They want to continue engaging in sense gratification. But if you're a good preacher, you'll be able to convince them little by little to give that up and take the devotional service. And then the next point Prabhupada makes is, so far your question, and the question that was asked by Upendra to Prabhupada is, the soul is fundamentally pure, but he has an aptitude to come to the impure state of material contamination. He is therefore called tatastha, or marginal. He has got the liberty of staying within the pure state or becoming contaminated. That is his choice. This marginal point can be understood in this way. Just like you are standing on the shore of the sea, so you can remain on the land, or sometimes you can jump into the water to enjoy, as you will see on the beaches. So many young boys are enjoying, but that is dangerous at the same time. One who does not know swimming expertly, well, he may become drowned. Similarly, the soul from the spiritual platform sometimes jumps over the material ocean of nescience. The Vedic knowledge gives him specific instruction how to swim over, but if he is a rascal, he does not take the instruction through the bona fide representative, the spiritual master, and he becomes drowned. That is the position. The Vedic instruction is so nice that the soul, when he jumps over the material ocean, the Vedic instruction teaches him how to swim and come back again to the shore. This swimming process, according to Vedic instruction, is called sacrifice, charity, and penance, or yajna, dana, and tapasya. One who learns these techniques of swimming over the ocean of nescience or ignorance, he goes back to home, back to Godhead. One who does not take to the swimming process, he becomes drowned. In the Bhagavad Gita, this is stated, Icha dvesa samutena sarge yanti parantapa, which means deluded by desire to enjoy the material world and becoming envious of Krishna, one comes to this material world. Bhagavad Gita 7.27. So, read our literature profusely, and you will get sufficient knowledge. Hoping this will meet you in good health, your ever well wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Haribol. So, this was Prabhupada instructing a disciple who had many questions and doubts. By the way, that disciple did fall down after some time, although he had rendered a lot of service to Prabhupada, but then he fell down. And I think he's still around somewhere, but this is back in 1971. Okay, so this being deluded by attraction to sense gratification in the material world, we forget Krishna, and we fall down and are completely controlled by Maya. So, therefore, we should become ekanista, not interested in sense gratification, but only interested in pleasing Guru and Krishna by devotional service. Then we will not be trapped and we will become free of these dualities, love and hate, happiness and distress, riches and poverty, and so forth. We won't be disturbed by these things anymore. Okay, we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? Why did they fall down? Well, because they're not being strict in following rules and regulations. That's the way you begin to fall down. And then when you're not strict in following the rules and regulations, you start to become attracted to things in the material world that look attractive. Just like when you fly on an airplane, they always have these magazines that you can read, right? And they're very nice full-color magazines. And they usually tell you about some other place. Like, let's say you live in Seattle, so you're on a flight to somewhere in the East Coast, and you get bored, so you look at the magazine, and the magazine tells you how wonderful it is in Montreal, Canada. And there's pictures of a bar with shiny bottles of liquor, and there's people sitting down on these nice chairs in the bar, and they're happy and have really white teeth and nice clothes, and everything is shiny, and it says, you have to go to Montreal, it's rather fun in Montreal, they have these restaurants, and you have scenic things to see, and wonderful people, and you're seeing these people, they all look really happy, they're very handsome or beautiful, and the bar is shiny, and the crystal chandeliers and things like that. You think, wow, I should go there. Then I can really enjoy. You see how it's psychologically attractive, right? But when you go to Montreal, you see a bunch of bums hanging out in the streets, and the people are a little cranky, and you walk into the bars. Yeah, the bars are all shiny and nice, but the waitress is mean and things like that. You suddenly realize, wait a minute, this whole thing was a hoax. I'm not any happier here than I was where I came from. So then on your way back, there's another magazine. It says, go to San Francisco and be happy. And again, you have this bar, and everyone's beautiful and shiny white teeth and nice clothes, and the whole thing is illusory. It's all planned to keep us entangled in the material world. So we fall down by not being attentive to following the rules and regulations. That's the beginning, and then because of that, we become attracted again to the material world, to the glitter of the material world, and we think that we'll be happier by breaking the rules and regulations than by following them. And that puts an end to one's devotional service. They're not afraid of breaking the regulative principles, because there's no real love for Guru and Krishna. There's just, they were just following out of curiosity, but not out of commitment. Haribol. Of course, the Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Maharaj, even doing this, they are doing for years and years, and let's say they are doing for 10 years or 15 years.
Anytime you become inattentive, so let's say you're walking on a tightrope, right? You ever see these guys walking on a tightrope? They're up really high and they have some big pole that they're holding in their arms, and they're walking step by step on a tightrope, right? And someone whistles and says, "Hey, how are you?" You know, and the person looks down, and all of a sudden he falls because he lost his attention. So that's what happens. You know, you just get diverted a little bit by something, and you can slip and fall. It's not hard to fall down. It's hard to keep your balance in Krishna consciousness. So any inattentiveness can lead to a fall down. So we have to be what you call detail oriented. We should be very, very focused on all the little details of devotional service. Right? So someone who's detail oriented, they're very careful. Right? They want to do everything correctly. So they check and double check, and they're always, the way you check and double check is always stay in association of devotees, good devotees. So if you make some mistake, they'll immediately point it out to you. And bad devotees, they don't point out your mistakes because they're also making mistakes. They don't want you to point out their mistakes. So, you know, it's like a mutual agreement. You know, I'll close my eyes to your mistakes, you close your eyes to my mistakes. So therefore, you know, nobody makes any spiritual advancement. Haribol, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, you know, parents, you know, who never correct their kids. Right? When the kids make mistakes, oh, he was playing with matches in the closet and started a little fire. You know, oh, he's a very interesting boy. You know, he's learning how to use the matches. You know, I mean, that's one way of interpreting it. Or he's a very naughty boy. He's stupid that he's trying to burn the house down, right? So what is it exactly? So, you know, people think, you know, spare the rod and spoil the child. This was the philosophy in the 1950s. And the result of it was in the 1960s, the kids grew up to be hippies, you know, not following any rules and regulations. Because this Dr. Spock, he wrote this book, you know, spare the rod and spoil the child. In other words, the rod means, you know, it's a stick for punishing the child. He said, well, forget about the rod and spoil the child. You know, let the child do whatever it wants. You know, it'll figure things out on its own. You know, that's a bunch of nonsense. It didn't work. The next generation became hippies, right? And were not following any rules.